From my own experience, the effectiveness of Wes Craven's legendary horror film A Nightmare on Elm Street can be summed up in one simple factor. It's the only horror film I can recall having to switch off upon my first viewing because I found it too scary. And I've always been pretty hardcore with my horror viewing stamina. I saw The Shining at age 7, and though it did scare the hell out of me and gave me nightmares, I watched it all the way through and instantly became a big fan. At age 9, I watched The Exorcist all the way through, then read the novel. But in 1984, at age 11, I tried to watch our rented VHS copy of A Nightmare on Elm Street and only got about 30 minutes in before I left the room, too scared to watch the rest of the movie. It was only after I saw the excellent surrealist Nightmare on Elm Street 3 that I plucked up the courage to go back and watch the rest of the first film, only to discover that after the first 30-odd minutes the movie made for much easier viewing. I wasn't the only one to have this terrified reaction to the first Elm Street flick. Over the years I've heard stories from friends and relatives and from reports online of adults who went to see A Nightmare on Elm Street on the cinema when it was released, only to be psychologically traumatised for days and weeks afterwards, even suffering recurring nightmares as a result. So what made the first Elm Street film so chillingly effective in its scares? Well, like any good horror film, it relentlessly gets under the viewer's skin with a bombardment of subliminal communication relating to multiple subconscious fears. It does this with such skill and detail that I'm now going to spend at least an hour breaking down its fear process. But I will start by mentioning some basic elements that helped frame the first terrifying 30-odd minutes. The first factor is that the nightmares becoming reality plot of the film strips away any feelings of security the audience might have. It creates a paradigm whereby absolutely anything can happen, thus making the potential horror scares unlimited and unpredictable, like being on a really bad acid trip. We'll get into that dream stuff in further detail shortly because it's actually very complex. The second factor is that we are initially led to assume that Tina is the main protagonist of the story because she's the first character introduced. Normally the lead protagonist in a horror movie goes through hell, but they come out still breathing at the end. They survive. Tina, however, gets viciously slaughtered just 18 minutes into the runtime. It's unexpected, and the amount of blood in the scene comes off as an additional shock. The classic movie history parallel of Tina's death is the shower murder scene in Hitchcock's Psycho. At the time, it was unheard of to have the lead character suddenly get murdered halfway through the film. In Psycho, the death of the female lead gives way to Norman Bates becoming the central character, but in Elm Street, Tina's murder has the additional effect of giving us something to fear regarding the fate of Nancy, who replaces Tina as the next lead character to the slaughter. So after Tina's death, the audience has the triple fear paradigm of 1. Dreams invading reality, 2. A narrative that is not sticking to the predictable rules of assured safety for lead characters, and 3. A film that is not holding back in its presentation of sadism and gore. As if all that wasn't bad enough, the film suddenly changes tactics in the school sequence and adds more layers of psychological terror. Nancy sees her supposedly dead friend now trapped in limbo. So it's not just the pain of death that is to be feared, but a sort of eternal misery afterward. There's also the possibility that Nancy's own dead friend is becoming an evil entity that, like Freddy, wishes to torment her. There's the transformation of the school geography into a hellish boiler room maze. Nancy enters through draped flesh-coloured cloth, and when she tries to escape, a wall has magically appeared, sealing her in and establishing that none of the film's basic environments are safe. And there's the firm establishment of the fact that Nancy is no longer allowed to go to sleep at all, because if she does she will die, but sleep is unavoidable in itself. So there's a real sense of impending doom. It's a brutally potent opening half hour, and there's plenty more going on during that runtime at the subliminal level and throughout the rest of the movie. So let's start breaking it all down.